Hello and welcome to the We Recommend podcast, a movie podcast where every week we recommend a movie for you to watch and then come back here and listen to us discuss. I'm Jesse and nobody else is here with me, baby, because this week we're doing the top 5 underrated comedies that I love. All right, so Jason is sick. Everybody around me is sick. So I'm the only one that's really not sick. And I kind of waited last second to try to get game night out because that's supposed to be the one that we're doing this Monday. But weren't able to do it. Really wanted Jason to be on that episode because it's such a fun movie. And, you know, that's my boy. That's my boy. So decided to actually just going to do a solo pod. It's probably going to be a little shorter than usual. And I'm just going to kind of talk about 5 underrated comedies, kind of like Game Night, that you don't really hear anybody talk about that much, but are really funny. Maybe have went under the radar a little bit. So the way I'm doing this is, at work or with friends, I'll be like, hey, have you seen this movie? Like one of the ones on my list. And it's always no. And I'm just like, it's so funny. You have to watch it. It's like, I know that probably on the internet, a lot of these movies are going to be super popular. But if you go just to your friends at work or just coworkers or I don't know, even family members, you'd be like, hey, have you seen this movie? And they'd be like, no, not really. I've never heard of that ever. But as soon as they watch it, they're going to find it hilarious. Some of these have just probably got pushed down because, comedies don't come out in theaters anymore. Or, just got really bad reviews and it's, comedy's kind of like horror where it's this, sometimes critics just don't get it, or they've just seen, they watch every movie that comes out every week. So they may have, just kind of, seen so many movies like it that they just didn't want to watch a comedy that day. It's kind of goes the same way with horror movies where you'll watch a horror movie that's so poorly reviewed, but you watch it and you're like, wow, this is so fun, right? That one of the movies that kind of did that to me this year was Until Dawn. I was a fan of the video games and I didn't really understand. It came out and I was like, this doesn't sound good. People are pretty mixed on it. Most people are just like, this is kind of bad. And then I watched it and I was like, that was a completely enjoyable time. That's kind of what this list is, except it's not just an enjoyable time. It's just a really fun time. So yeah, let's hop into my list. We're going to start off. So it's the 10 underrated comedies that I like. My top 5 underrated comedies. Just been kind of cooking this up as a backup idea for whenever we can't record or something like this happens where Jason gets sick or, everybody around me is kind of coughing. A lot of people get sick. It's that time of year. The holidays are coming up. What can we say? Don't know what that is. So I'm going to do 5. Start with 5, go up. But first, we're going to do some honorable mentions. That's right, baby. So this movie is something I watched last year or a couple years ago. Never seen it. Stars Mike Myers, of course, of Austin Powers fame. Groovy, baby, right? Yep. Yes. It's fun talking to myself. It's really great. Enjoy doing it a lot. It's not awkward. Luckily, I'm pumped up with coffee, so shouldn't be too much of an issue. And I'm watching the trailer for The Love Guru, which is not on my list, but it is playing for some reason on IMDb as I'm doing this. So I actually chose to do Mike Myers' So I Married an Axe Murderer. Yeah, if you have not seen this, it's great. It's hilarious. You'll see a lot of classic Mike Myers stuff where he's playing multiple characters. Yeah, so Mike Myers, he plays the father. He plays his own father, and it's great. And he's a guy that has a bunch of, conspiracy theories and stuff like that. And this is actually kind of spun off into the Netflix show that Mike Myers did, the Pinterverette. I don't know what it's called, but it kind of went from that. But it's kind of Mike Myers before, where he didn't really have a gimmick, because most of his stuff was gimmicky, Wayne's World, SNL, Austin Powers, Love Guru. It's very gimmicky type of movies, which we love, except The Love Guru, but Wayne's World 1 and 2 and the Austin Powers trilogy, not underrated, baby. But So I Married an Axe Murderer. A San Francisco poet who fears commitment suspects his girlfriend may have a knack for killing off her significant others. It's got Charles Grodin in it, who will show up a little bit later on the list. Great, fun movie. I don't think it might be as funny as some of the other ones on this list, but I don't know. It actually kind of is. I guess most people have kind of watched this movie. I feel like it was always on Comedy Central, so that's why I ended up in the honorable mentions. But yeah, and his poetry stuff is pretty great. Woman, if you've seen it, you would get that reference. Yeah, so that was that one, and this one is a big. This next one's it's a big millennial movie, right? Like if you grew up in the 2000s, this was constantly on Comedy Central or FX or I think even on the USA Network, because they got characters. And I chose Rat Race, a movie. And the reason it didn't end up like on underrated, like the top 5, I mean, everybody kind of knows Rat Race, but also I feel like a lot of people don't really like it as much as I feel like they should. It's very dumb. It's got like the dumbest humor. But I don't know. It's still funny. It's like a Las Vegas casino magnate determined to find a new avenue for wagering setups, a race for money. And this, of course, has the wonderful Rowan Atkinson, who is great. He has narcolepsy and falls asleep at random spots. And it's got Cubican Jr., John Lovitz, who fucking crushes. This is where the whole I'm prairie dogging over here, and it's where like the poop comes in and out of his butt. It's really great. Then you got the guy because he's got a tongue pierced, and then yeah, it's a pretty fun. It's also got John Cleese. Jeez, this movie has so many good comedic actors, and it was a movie that I loved to watch as a kid. I've probably seen it at least 10 to 20 times, just basically from just being bored at home over the summer, and it comes on constantly. But yeah, a really fun movie, and if you haven't checked it out, you may think it's dumb, and that's okay. But you know what? Sometimes we need dumb. Am I right? Also, Seth Green's in it, which is great. All right, and then I'm gonna this honestly might be. This isn't the last honorable mention. It's a movie I kind of think of all the time. And I always kind of want to rewatch, but I just haven't. And it's called Logan Lucky, directed by Steven Soderbergh of Ocean's 11 fame and a bunch of other goddamn good movies, right? Two brothers attempt to pull off a heist during a NASCAR race in North Carolina. Think of it as country version of Ocean's 11. It's all the characters are really dumb, but that's kind of what makes it funny. It's a very outrageous, it's a pretty silly plot, but it's really fun. It's got Channing Tatum, Raleigh Keough, Katie Holmes, Adam Driver, Daniel Craig. I mean, come on, Jack Quaid. It's got a jam-packed cast. It's really funny, and if this is not one that you've checked out, you should. It's if you like Soderbergh, you're gonna love this movie. I mean, everybody usually likes Soderbergh. This is before because he has his versions of poppy, pop, type of filmmaking where it's really cool and funny and great. And then you have his little experimental things where he does films on his phone and things like that, Insane, I believe is what it's called. Insane, not Unsane. Yeah, those movies. But this one's a very big production. Looks great. It's hilarious. Definitely check out Logan Lucky. So now let's get into our first movie of the top 5 underrated movies that Jesse says is underrated. And these might not be underrated to you, but for just Joe Schmo out there who's listening to this might be hey, I've never heard of this movie, so let's listen to it. Listen to me talk about it and then watch it. You know what I mean? So this is a movie that I think maybe watched 4 or 5 years ago for the first time. I've kind of always heard about it. It's got actors that I like in it. But I just finally decided hey, it was on Netflix one year and I was I'm going to watch it thinking that it was more of an action movie than a comedy. And it turned out it's a goddamn funny comedy. And that's right. I'm talking about the 1988 Midnight Run, baby, starring Robert De Niro and Charles Grodin. I'm just going to sit here and tell you, I love Charles Grodin. He's been in my life since I was born, baby. Been watching him in Beethoven and mainly Beethoven. But he's so good at everything that he's done. The Heartbreak Kid, if you can get your hands on that, the original, so good. like it kind of sucks how little movies he's been in like throughout his career and that he just kind of slid under the radar. I mean, for, you know, like millennial generation, right? Like you saw him in like all these little kid movies, he was great in it. And you loved him and you didn't know why. And then when you watch like some of the more seriouser movies or funny movies that he's in, it's just like, man, he's like the best. He comes in, he's sarcastic, cuts you to your core. He's like the past version of like a Jason Bateman or something, but just maybe not as talky, I guess, if that makes any sense. But he's hilarious in this movie. He pairs well. He pairs great with Robert De Niro. Um, it's a bounty hunter pursues a former mafia accountant who is also being chased by a rival bounty hunter, the FBI, and his old mob boss after jumping bail. And just, it also stars Joey Pants. Hey, baby, Joey Pantalonio. I just call him Jody Pants because I can't pronounce anybody. So it's also got Philip Baker Hall, Dennis Farina. If you know him if you know him, right? You know him if you know him. And yeah, just the chemistry between Charles Grodin and Robert De Niro is fantastic because you got your classic. They're both kind of do good with like sarcasm, but Charles Grodin's like way better at it than Robert De Niro. And Robert De Niro, he's got that like stoniness to him. Stoniness, what the fuck does that mean, right? That it's it's like no nonsense, and Charles Grodin is constantly like very nonsense in this movie, and it's wonderful, baby. So yeah, that's my number 5 spot of my top 5 underrated comedies. It's also directed by Martin Brest, and just a few things about him. He had a really good run in terms of movies that he was making, right? He did Beverly Hills Cop. Ever heard of it? Midnight Run. I'm just assuming you didn't hear of it. Otherwise, that's why it's in my underrated comedies, right? And then he did Scent of a Woman, right? You know, that movie with Tom Cruise, Al Pacino, won some damn Oscars. Pretty sure Al Pacino got his Oscar in that movie. Yeah, it's kind of a ridiculous movie. But that was kind of his peak of stardom for him. And then he did Meet Joe Black, a classic movie. If your wife or your girlfriend, definitely watch that movie. And then he decided to put down his career by doing Geely? I don't eat giggly. No, it's Geely. The Jennifer Lopez and Ben Affleck movie that it's perfect for the Thanksgiving gift season, right? Because this is the perfect time on Thanksgiving to put down It's Turkey Time, Gobble Gobble. If you've seen that movie, you know what I'm talking about. Also an underrated comedy in as it's bad and really dumb and it's fun to make fun of. But yeah, Martin Brest, directed Midnight Run. Did not know that until I started doing research on some of these movies so that I could talk about them. And yeah, crazy that he did that movie. But yeah, check out Midnight Run. You will not be disappointed. It's fun. The action's great. It's not like shitty CGI because it's an older movie. So it's really fun to watch those movies. Yep. All right. So now we're going to go to number 4. This is a movie that this actually might be the one that you did hear the most about because I don't know. It came out, didn't hear much about it. I saw it on Comedy Central. It was just always on, and it's just one of the funniest movies ever made. I mean, seriously, it completely ruined musical biopics, because now when I watch them, I'm like, they're just fucking doing it over and over again. And all I can think about is when I watch biopics is this movie. And I am talking about Walk Hard, the Dewey Cox story. Yes, it is fantastic. It really will ruin all the biopics for you. Yeah, so it stars John C. Reilly, Tim Meadows, Kristen Wiig, Craig Robertson, Harold Ramis, Martin Starr, Chris Farnell, Jack McBayer, Molly C. Quinn, Frankie Muniz, Ed Helms, Jack White. Oh, Jack White. I'm the king, baby. Yeah, so this is it's just one of the funniest movies you'll ever watch. It just kind of goes through, all the ridiculous things that like artists did, and they end up put in their biopics. And then I think like the biggest joke about it is just like all these singers and songwriters, they do the most ridiculous stuff, all the drugs in the world, and then it like always ends with like, they were the greatest goddamn singers you've ever seen in your life. And it's just really playing hard off of that. Like biopics, they always like ended up meeting like 15 different musical artists, and they're always like, dang, Dewey, you did the best we ever could have done. Um, I don't know. But Tim Meadows probably has some of the most funny lines. Like the parts where every time that Dewey Cox goes into the bathroom because he's having a real hard time to do, and Tim Meadows is doing some drugs, it's like, it's just always great. But yeah, if you haven't seen that, it's wonderful. It's directed by Jake Kasdan, which is Lawrence Kasdan, the guy that like directed Empire Strikes Back and all these other great movies. And Jake Kasdan is the son of him, and he also like really helped get New Girl off the ground, which is fucking wonderful. But yeah, sometimes you just got to walk hard and hope that the wrong kid doesn't die, and sometimes you do want some of that shit. And he didn't pay for drugs, not once. Just some great quotes in it. There's also Paul Rudd, Jack Black. There's just so many fucking good actors and actresses in this movie. It's hilarious. And if you haven't watched it, definitely watch it. Honestly, if we probably put like what I think is the funniest movie out of my top 5 that I'm picking here, I would put Walk Hard as number 1. But in terms of movies that like people have actually heard of that movie and they've enjoyed it. But like in terms of ratio to people who've heard it versus how fucking funny it is, yeah, it belongs at number 4 on this list. So yes, check out Walk Hard, the Dewey Cox story. So number 3 at the top 5 of Jesse's underrated comedies is Spy, starring Melissa McCarthy, directed by Paul Feig. It's an R-rated Paul Feig comedy. So think of like Bridesmaids and things like that. It's like this kind of goes right along with it of being like super funny. Like Melissa McCarthy, she's a little bigger. She doesn't seem like, the type of spy, right? Which is what's great about the movie. She fucking crushes. A desk-bound CIA analyst volunteers to go undercover to infiltrate the world of deadly arms dealers and prevent diabolical global disasters. Now, so Melissa McCarthy, as I said, she's great as always. It's got Jude Law. He's hilarious. But the two people I really want to point out here is Miranda Hart, who's kind of like the best friend of Melissa McCarthy. She's so good. She's so funny. I almost would say she might be the funniest part of the movie. And when you check it out, like just focus in on her. All her one-liners are great. But it also stars Allison Janney. But the big one is Jason Statham. He's the best part of him in this movie is that because he's so, he's the character of the movie, right? Like how you expect Jason Statham to be in the movie is a spy movie. It's exactly who he is, but like they make him very dumb at the same time because, all spy movies are kind of dumb, right? They always do like really dumb shit. And the way that Melissa McCarthy and Miranda Hart kind of play off him is so wonderful. They kind of make him like a chauvinist, classic tough guy stuff that Jason Statham does. And yeah, they just kind of fucking crush. It's a big, big movie for me in terms of like underrated comedies where, I don't know, other than like me and my wife, no one's fucking watched the movie. So I feel like if I'm going to do top 5 underrated comedies, I have to shout out Spy because it's one of the funnier comedies just in general. And especially like when you look at Paul Feig's career, I know most people look at Bridesmaids as the funniest. And trust me, Bridesmaids is hilarious and wonderful. But Spy, it's got that place in my heart. I just like, put it on one day. I think it was on HBO Max or something like that. Put it on, just wanted a little chuckle. We didn't think it was going to be like too big of a movie. And then like by the end of it, I was like, holy shit, this is one of the funniest movies I've ever seen. So make sure you check out Spy. So we're going to move along to my number 2. And honestly, it's probably as you're like listening to this, you're like, is the quality of these movies going to get, you're about to see a big drop off in terms of what people think about these movies. The other 3 had pretty good reviews, and, if you did hear about it, most people were like, "Yeah, they're hilarious." Now these next 2 are kinda movies that got bad reviews. I've never heard anybody talk about them except for me, and that's why I really wanna pinpoint these because these are very funny movies in my personally for me. And so the next one is my number 2 selection. It's called The Watch, starring Ben Stiller, Vince Vaughn, Jonah Hill, and Richard Ayoade? I don't know how to say his last name. I should have done more research to do that. But, for some reason I have a podcast, even though I can't talk. Y'all have heard this before, but whatever. So 4 men who form a neighborhood watch group as a way to get out of their day-to-day family routines find themselves defending the earth from an alien invasion. Yeah, right. So classic, like comedy bit, right? It's like, oh, gang gets together. Some dudes have to be together. So they could be funny. And then all of a sudden, ridiculous things thrown in there. Classic. So this movie is directed by Akiva Schaffer, one part of The Lonely Island. He's the one that directed Pop Star, Hot Rod, and the Chip and Dale's movie. And, everybody loves the new Naked Gun, right? Everybody kind of flipping out about that. Well, he directed it. So, you're in good hands in terms of directing, which is kind of why I can't believe this went over everybody's head. But yeah, Ben Stiller is doing his Ben Stiller thing, right? His classic straight man Ben Stiller bit. But here's where's Vince Vaughn. We have to talk about Vince Vaughn, right? Where did he go? He needs to be in every comedy still. It seems like we just decided, all right, you did your Owen Wilson bits and stuff, but hey, you're done. You're out of here. And I know he tried season 2 of True Detective, and that didn't really go well for him, but he seemed like he dropped off the cliff at that point. But ladies and gentlemen, Vince Vaughn will always be funny. I was watching the Hot Ones that he was on recently, as in probably a year ago, because I don't really keep up on those things. But just as soon as he starts talking, I got a smile on my face. I feel so much joy. I'm even starting to try to talk fast like him, He's the best eater in the biz as well. We all know this. We all love him for it. I love when he talks about food, when he shows up on those commercials that he's been doing with Owen Wilson, where they're talking about oh, I can watch 15,000 football games at once. He's talking, just love him. He's great. This movie also stars Will Forte, Doug Jones, because he's a hero alien. And yeah, it's just so fun. Will Forte is just kind of like the ridiculous, cop in the movie, he doesn't believe anything, and it's so funny. And whenever Vince Vaughn starts yelling at his daughter from in the basement of this cool little area they do, basement in his house, whatever, it's just so great the way that he yells at his daughter. It's wonderful. If you just want to watch 4 really funny people act together, this is the perfect movie for you. You check out any of the reviews and stuff for it, just don't listen to him. It's just fun. You just don't go in it and think it's the greatest thing ever. Jonah Hill, also great in it. It's got one of the best bits between Ben Stiller and Jonah Hill where it's look at him and listen to me. It's listen to him and look at me. I don't know. It's some bit like that. I'm nervous doing a podcast by myself, so I'm not going to get it down right? I mean, I'm assuming that's why you guys like me. I don't know. So yeah, that is my number 2 spot in my top 5 underrated films. So this next one, this is going to be the worst reviewed one, probably the least heard of one. But baby, this movie has one of my favorite comedic bits in the end. Probably the last 10 years. I know I say that all the time on this podcast. Oh, this is the greatest comedy of the last 10 years. This is my favorite funny thing that's ever happened for the last 10 years. But this movie does have one of my favorite bits in a movie. And it's great. So it's called The House, right? And you're probably oh God, The House. If you look up the reviews, I think it used to be at 5%, but I think more people have watched it and now it's jumped up to 20% Rotten Tomatoes. Who fucking cares about Rotten Tomatoes, right? So after the town takes away their daughter's college scholarship, a couple start an illegal casino in the friend's house to make back the money. So classic, right? You already kind of got the picture of what what this movie is going to do. They're going to set up a casino. They're going to start acting like casino bosses, breaking fingers, stuff like that. But here's the thing. It's very childish. Amy Poehler and Will Ferrell. It's them at them doing what they do best, right? And it's great. They crush it. But here's where, look, there's someone that I've been listening to a long time in podcasts. And then after I listen to him, every time I watched him in something, he's in like every single sitcom you've ever seen. He always like has like a character arc in these things. It's called Jason Mantzoukas, baby. He's one of the funniest people on the planet. I love the way he talks, his face. He's always kind of a little crazy. And he just has this really good bit where, so the whole point is he's lost his wife. The wife moved out. And now he has this house by himself. And so he's like, hey, just set up a casino here. And he wants to do this and make more money so he can get the wife back. And there's this one part where I think she works in a barbershop, or not a barbershop, but like a hairdressing place, haircut place, right? And he just kind of walks by trying to get noticed. And then when he just walks by and goes like, "Bah!" Or he just like yells, and it's really funny. I just remember, I think I cried laughing at it. And I don't know. It's just like anytime I think about like, oh shit, someone wants to watch a comedy, so they ask me what would I recommend, and usually the first two I say is The Watch and The House, because they're two movies that I know most people haven't watched, so they should check it out. And this movie gets really silly, kind of like The Watch is really silly, but I don't know, right? Like we used to really like really silly comedies. We've had them throughout our entire lives, but they just kind of seem to got pushed away here. For people wanting more like grounded and realistic comedies. And this is not that, but it's like, who cares, right? Who needs grounded and realistic anymore? Everything's too grounded, everything's too realistic now. And if you want something that's just really funny and silly, it's a great movie. And that's why it ended up on my number one spot on my top 5. Seriously, Jason Mantzoukas is really funny. If you haven't listened to How Did This Get Made, it's a movie podcast where they talk about bad movies. He's so funny in that. And that was actually that's the first podcast I started listening to. And I immediately fell in love with June, Paul, and Jason. It's Paul Scheer, June, Diane, Raphael, and Jason Mantzoukas. Make sure you listen to them if you like movies and listening to bad movies. And just comedians. You've seen them in everything. The League, stuff like that. But yeah, dang it, I think that's it. That's my top 5. I'm going to run down the list. So in the number 5 spot was Midnight Run. In the number 4 spot was Walk Hard. The 3 spot, Spy. The 2 spot, The Watch. And the 1 spot, The House. So, and I believe The House is on HBO, or it usually is. The other ones, I think you actually might have to rent. So I'm sorry about that. But I wanted to do this episode because I hate not having an episode for you guys to, listen to. I really like I want a very consistent release. So this is why you're getting this episode instead of no episode at all or a late episode. I feel like it kind of fit perfectly because if I had to put Game Night into this list, it'd probably be number 1 because it is kind of one of the funnier movies of the last few years. And I guess I probably could have done Pop Star, but I feel like most people actually know Pop Star now because it was so funny, it was undeniable. But yeah, so me and Jason, so I want to hear what your top 5 underrated comedies are. If you have one, you can let us know and maybe we'll say it on the next podcast, which we'll be recording this when this comes out on Monday. We'll be recording the Game Night episode on Wednesday. So, you have Monday to Wednesday to put in your top 5 underrated comedies, and we'll talk about them on the Game Night episode if you'd like. You can go to the description. At the top, there's a link to click. It doesn't work on some platforms, so you can also scroll to the bottom of the description and go to our email. We recommend mailbag@gmail.com. So yeah, I would love to hear from you guys. Seriously, just some one-on-one chat between me and the audience here. I really want to hear from you guys. And to prove that I will talk about what you guys are talking about, or to prove that I will talk about your comments on it, we actually got a YouTube comment on the Friendship podcast where we talked about the movie Friendship, which, if in like a decade, that movie would probably have been in the top 5 underrated comedies. So use a clown of a man at use the clown of a man. Yeah, that's a crazy one. He said that was such a good catch about Craig being colorblind and maybe not even knowing it. He does seem to covet a lot of bright objects and experiences: the lights of the city, the gutter, the guitar, the red Mars rover phone case. And because his wife flower business doesn't provide him with any sense of adventure, he can't seek the same enjoyment from them. He's a child who's looking for stimulation without knowing why it's stimulating for him in a lot of ways. I wonder if the moment he was staring at the flower alone was the first time he really looked at them, and that shred of honesty with himself really cut all the way to his core and reminded him of his wife. Not saying that he grew at all from this moment, but I love that moment of him crumbling to the floor. Very haunting. Yes, use the clown of a man. It's a great name. Great name. Thank you for the comment. Yes, it was wild after multiple rewatches of the movie. It was like, this guy definitely is colorblind. And I'm glad that other people recognize that now. Thank you for your comment, and use the clown of a man if you're listening to this. You know, pop up on the comments like a movie you want done for the podcast. I might actually do it. But yeah, man, that moment where he just kind of breaks down, it's kind of it's such a real moment and such a silly movie that it's something I'm gonna think about a lot. Think about it often, actually. So, thank you for your comment. Use the clown of a man. I fucking love that name. And then we got Mario Antoine Evans on YouTube, who, for our Halloween 3 Season of the Witch commentary, he said the horror movie is not scary. Only reason you're not scared of the horror movie, you are used to it, just like me. I started watching horror movies at the age of 5. I 100% absolutely agree with this statement. You know, while we were watching it, and it would help if I did watch that movie when I was younger, and I believe we talked about that in the commentary, is that if I saw that as a kid, like, I mean, when they're in Halloween 3, when their heads is kind of like blah and have snakes and shit coming out of it, that would have scared the hell out of me, right? And I would have probably been more open to a lot of the in-between scenes between like all the deaths and stuff. It's just, you know, watching it, it's a little longer than I'd like. And there is just kind of like a lot of like old dudes just kind of sneaking around for good. You could probably cut like 15 minutes of that, which is crazy. But, you know, probably a little harsh on it. We did do a double recording and the commentary was second. But yeah, there's a lot of good things in Halloween 3. It's just, I don't know. It doesn't resonate with me. So Mario Antoine Evans, I absolutely agree. If I watched this as a kid, it'd probably been a favorite growing up, you know, but I did watch Halloween. Did I watch Halloween 1 as a kid? I can't remember. But, you know, most of the horror movies I watched as a kid or while I was younger, I still love them today. You know, like 13 Ghosts. That movie's not good. It's a very silly movie, but yeah, I still love to watch it and things like that. So like the Halloween 3 would probably been the same. I kind of wish I watched it like in the 90s or something when I was a little baby, or at least like early 2000s. I would have loved it then. But yeah, thank you for those comments. So if you have any comments on you, leave us some comments on YouTube or in our descriptions, like I said, and we'll end up talking about it on here. Yeah, thank you. And Mario Antoine Evans, leave a comment what you want recommended on the podcast. We'll totally do it. All right, we're going to wrap this up a little bit longer than I wanted it to be. So yes, if you enjoyed this episode, leave us a like, give us a follow, do all the things that people have to say at the end of things, because, you know, it's just this constant grind of being noticed by people, right? Yep. So yeah, join us next week. Game night. Promise we're doing it, baby. And this has been a very special edition of the We Recommend podcast, a movie podcast where every week we recommend a movie for you to watch. I've been Jesse. Thank you for listening. Jason will be back next week. Sorry for not doing just one movie this go around. Bye.